You know what? I'm 32 years old. It's 11:30 on a Saturday morning. Let's get it!
Hey guys, welcome to episode 83 of CMD Towers Brews and Builds. I'm Mr. Commodore 5 and my fellow host, one could say, plays EDH with Winds of Abandon, Big Tuck.
I can be a bit of a wild card. Hello, my birdies and birder says. We are coming to you live on a Saturday morning. I am tired. Mr. Combo is tired. He does look tired, if you're curious. But it was totally worth it. So I'm good. It looks like it's going to be a nice, beautiful day today. Are you going to be watching the sports ball?
I assume you're talking March Madness.
Correct.
And hell no.
Really?
I have zero interest.
What? Why?
The only times I ever watched March Madness was when K-State was in it.
K-State was just
because
when K-State was making a run for it. Yeah.
And friend J-Rod would be, hyped about it. So it's like, okay, I'll watch it.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I didn't even watch K-State basketball this season, like regular season. Just watch the KU game, none of that.
Hoops that's your preferred sport, correct?
No, football.
Football, 100%. Yeah, obviously. But then, hoops is after that, right?
Oh, yeah. I could care less about baseball.
Yeah, it's so there is something to be...
To get me to watch baseball, we have to be in the World Series. That's the only time I've watched baseball in the last 20 years.
Fair point. I was gonna say I don't like watching baseball, period, right? But there is a certain rustic charm about going to the game, and hearing the crack of the bat on the ball and smelling the peanuts and all that stuff. But yeah, I just hope that where I'm heading out to the crossroads isn't gonna be busy, but I'm sure it is because I'm sure KU is playing today.
Oh yeah,
right.
I would guess so. I don't know. I always gave jabs to our friend Ali because I'd always hit him up whenever KU lost.
Oh yeah,
never when they win, just to rub it in.
Like a true friend.
What everyone wants to hear now, spoiler free, Big Tuck. We finished Zack Snyder Justice League last night. Initial thoughts, no spoilers.
So I don't know if it's because I was drinking White Claws or because I was watching it with you and Davis. I've only thought about that since we watched it. And granted, that was only 10 hours ago. I think it's like a 4 out of 5 with a recommendation from me.
Yeah.
Which is shocking because the first one I can look up. I think I gave it 1 star.
And honestly, I don't think there's a single DC movie that you've been like, I recommend you watch that, other than maybe Aquaman.
Yeah, I think
even that one, I feel like you were just like, I enjoyed it, but you never were like, I would tell people to watch this.
Right, correct. Yeah, for the most part, and I think that we talked a lot about it with Davis, who I think summed it up interestingly, where he hadn't seen Justice League. So I think that there is, I would say, and I think you kind of agree with me on this, that the first 2-ish hours are just kind of like a retreading of what we already know.
Yeah, because I think it was fleshing out, because the first 2 hours of the 4 hours, there were new scenes that weren't in the first one, but it was stuff that I think Zach thought, I need this story here so that way you actually care about the Flash.
Yes,
exactly. About Cyborg.
Right. Totally agree. And I feel like that first 2 hours was like the condensation or whatever of 3 movies. Right.
Yeah.
And then, but there was this time, and no spoilers, there was a moment in this movie, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, I swear to God, that was like throw my hat on the ground, stand up, and put my hands on my head. It blew my mind. And and I'm such a poo-poo hipster when it comes to film that this big moment happens to me so rarely. The fact that happened in a Zack Snyder Justice League movie.
Yeah, I know.
Say what you will about whatever tumultuous background is in it. I really liked it. But I didn't want to.
Yeah.
How
about you? For me, I was definitely on the Justice League train, and I had to kind of pull Big Tuck aboard.
You were a defender of the first movie.
because I felt like the first movie wasn't great, but there were a lot of moments that were good, and the overall story was okay. I mean, I liked Batman vs Superman more than I liked the first Justice League movie. Agreed. But, you know, here in the Zack Snyder cut, I never thought it was going to happen. And then it did. And I was like, okay, it's going to be good. I put a stamp of MC number 5 approval on it. Yeah. It's going to be good. Tuck was a little leery. And I'm very happy to say that, honestly, this exceeded my expectations.
Did it really?
It was okay. Good. It was better than I thought it was going to be, which is odd because I am usually one to hype up a movie too much in my head. Yeah. And then I get a little disappointed, like, oh, kind of like Dark Knight Rises. Anyways, moving on.
How dare you?
But yeah, no, I would recommend to the collective, do the 4 hours. Yeah. Definitely watch it. And I've even been reading some like trending posts about it this morning. Apparently, there's Warner Brothers executives that loved the movie that he put out. And they're talking about letting him do Justice League 2 and maybe 3.
Whoa.
So that way he can complete the story.
Wow. That would be wild.
That'd be phenomenal. There's even rumors that they want him to do Wonder Woman 3.
Huh. Okay. I mean, like, why not now, right?
Yeah, I don't think it'll happen because, you know, they have Patty Jenkins as the director for that. And I think that would be like, oh, white man takes like...
Yeah, exactly. I don't like the optics on that.
That's not a good role for it. And the first Wonder Woman she did was great.
Correct.
84 kind of sucked. And I think that had maybe something to do with COVID. I don't know. I think it just didn't hit. Yeah. It didn't hit the mark for me. But I do think... let Zach do Justice League 2 and 3. I think with doing this movie that was supposed to be done 4 years ago now, I think it showed that he can do his own vision without contradicting the other stuff that the other directors are doing. Because it would also be amazing to see Shazam in Justice League 2.
Yeah. That'd be awesome.
That'd be f***ing great.
And I think I think to your point, so 2 things. I also recommend watching this, and I would recommend watching it in a group. Like, I think if I just watched this by myself in my house, especially for the first half, I probably would have been a little bored because it's like, I already, like, what are we doing here? Like, I get what's going on here. So it was really fun to, like, crack some beers and, like, talk through it. And then I think to your second point about them, like, kind of letting Snyder off the chain, I hope this is going to be, like, a wake-up call to be like, hey, we don't need a DC universe. We don't need this like broad Avengers style thing. We just need someone who has, like, the vision for what he wants, and let him just go and do his own thing. And like, these movies are completely independent of anything else, right?
Yeah, well, and I don't know if you know this, Tuck, or if the collective knows, but Zack Snyder's original vision, it wasn't a big, broad universe. It was actually a 4-part series. Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Justice League 1, Justice League 2. Oh. That was his original. And there might have been a Man of Steel 2 in between the 2 Justice Leagues. Sure. But he basically had a 4 or 5 movie arc that was his vision.
And that's like complete, it was just like, right?
Yes. And then like, I'm done. But then it's like, oh, well, yeah, Wonder Woman and Flash and Cyborg are here. So if you guys want to do solo movies, you can do it. So I do agree with you to where... he could, if they want to let him off the chains and let him do his own vision, he can do that, and you could still go off and do Wonder Woman 3 like without it. Aquaman 2 doesn't even matter. Like, he's been able to show in this movie that he can respect the other directors and like not contradict what they're gonna like put out there, but still be able to stay true to his thing.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
For me, 9 out of 10 recommendation.
Wow.
It's up there. Tuck and I and The Godfather talked about it for about 20 minutes last night. We didn't realize how many superhero movies there actually are in reality. But this is definitely a top 10, top 15 movie in the superhero genre.
Agreed, 100%. So, and for me, like I went in with no expectations. So that's also blew my mind. And it's good to hear that you went in with your normal comic books movie expectations, which I knew you would. So no, it's go out and see it, guys. It's really good.
Well, guys, thanks for tuning in to the episode and not here with the Manolith commentary from the Rich Chaos Record Studio. It's Squee McGee, and it's probably because he is sleeping. I think he's probably sleeping. I think he's working today. He's been working like a madman. It's great. Yeah, but is he actually working early in the day, or is it more like probably like late morning, early afternoon shifts?
I think when he's bottling, it's like 9 to 5. Like he has to be there at 8:30, sort of thing.
And that means he's probably still staying up till 4.
Yeah, exactly, at least 2. And then on the weekends, he's serving. So I would wager to guess he's going to be there from like 11 to 6 or something along those lines.
All right, so he's probably kind of awake right now.
Yeah. He's either dead asleep or maybe making coffee. He's definitely not functioning. He definitely didn't have breakfast yet. That's not even an option.
Well, if you guys want to know more ways to support the CMD Tower crew and Squee McGee's non-existent breakfast and all the content we put out, head over to our sponsor, level1gameshop.com. They sell everything you need from a tabletop gaming perspective, and they're also the ones that hook us up with those monthly giveaways. So if you go support them, it supports us, which also supports you. And yeah, they're just great people. But if you would actually like to help us out financially with the podcast, you can head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. And one of the perks is you get a GD shout out from the MF and team, Aaron Ingram. Thank you, man. Thanks for joining. And also, we're going to have to shame Mr. Magoo. He canceled his.
What?
And it's okay. We can call him out on this because we're like great friends and known him for like 15 plus years. But yeah, he canceled his. Screw him.
Well, to be fair, he also did a bunch of artwork for us for free. Oh, wait, did you pay him?
No, I paid him.
Okay, cool.
Paid him.
Nice. Well, yeah, then you can suck on that, Mr. McHugh.
Well, we have 4 different pledge levels, and one of them is a shout out on the episode for being a supporter. And another one, if you become good enough friends with us, is we will shame you once you leave. But also, you can also get a bunch of our swag. You also get multiple entries into the monthly giveaways. And all of that money really does go back into producing better quality content for you, whether it be upgraded microphones, upgraded rigs, or even new tangible products that you guys get for free for being a part of our patron community. If you guys don't want to do a monthly commitment, but you do want to get that Squee McGee get up and fight coin, which I don't know if any of you guys saw my Twitter post. It would now be a week ago. Some content creator was like, let's just do like nice community stuff like today. No negativity, or don't try to start fights. And I put in there, the reserve list should be expanded. And they're like, God, did you just wake up and smell blood today, bro? And I said, no, I flipped a coin and it said, get up and fight. So I thought, let's make the reserve list bigger. So you can get all of that at cmdtower.com/merch. We sell everything on there. Please continue to buy it. We're now halfway through our playmats. Once we get down to about 10, we'll start to work on the new design for the new playmat, which I'm super pumped for because I'm definitely wanting to get something where it's Squee, Tuck, and I looming in the background and all of our commanders on the playmat.
Oh, that would be like incredible.
Like an epic Avengers style clash.
Wow.
So yeah.
What a great idea.
Guilt your friends into doing it, because that piece will be beautiful. But hey, if you guys can't help out financially, just share the content you're watching and listening to, because every little bit of interaction from the collective does help. And Pink Royal, thanks for the music you provide. And T Coates, our man, getting us hit with copyright infringements. I love it.
We made it.
That means you're doing something right. He's our video editor. Go hit him up at T Coates on Twitter. He does a fantastic job with our YouTube stuff. So please go watch the YouTube videos, like it, leave nice comments, let him know what you would like to see done differently, so that way he can improve, as we all want to, as a creator for you.
Yeah.
And hey, make sure you guys stay tuned till the end so you get more details on how you can win that mystery bundle from Level 1. So Brews and Builds is our deck tech series. Since we conquered the path to 32, we have moved on to the endless themes that EDH can bring us, and each month will be a new theme. And we correlate how these decks are constructed similar to how beer is brewed. So we broke it down into 4 different categories. First is rampant your board state. That's the grain bill. I don't know. Puberty.
I was going to say, Harry's coming back. Grains are the foundation of any beer. They include both base malts and specialty malts, usually about a 60-40 ratio. This helps with the color, the taste, and most importantly, the alcohol content of the beer. Decks always need ways to grow, stabilize, and ramp into bigger threats. And just like a grain profile, they're usually a mix of staples and specialty cards.
The next is, how does your board interact with the rest of the board, which this deck loves to do?
Yes, it does.
It's called hops.
And hops give the beer its patented bitterness and herbal floral flavors. They grow in a variety of strands and helps distinguish subcategories like IPAs. So our hop choices help clear and interact with the board so your deck can ultimately do what it wants.
And then the next is, how does your deck actually close out or win the game? Which, surprisingly, it's like weird. This deck doesn't have a whole lot of the yeast package. So it'll be interesting to see how it wins.
Yeah. And yeast are living microorganisms that eat the sugar from the grain and then poop out alcohol and CO2. It adds alcohol content in the carbonation. Without yeast, to be drinking flat sugar water. Without yeast cards, your deck would meet the goal of actually winning the game.
And then we have shenanigans. This could be pet cards, synergies, alter the Brews, which unfortunately is not in the deck, that are just kind of fun. We call that spice.
And not every beer has them, but spices and other additives help separate a normal stock beer from a specialty one. It could be the pepper that turns a stout into a jalapeno stout, or the addition of hops that turn an IPA into a double IPA. Not every deck has something that makes it pop, but if it does, is where we generally talk about it.
And then to cap off the episode, we have a bottle capping. These are going to be big Texanized cuts and adds to the deck that are going to be under $5, under $50, and a no-budget personal recommendation. We just can't talk about mana-only lands, which would be kind of hard in this deck.
Correct.
So without further ado, let's get brewing. The last episode of our Voltron month.
We did it.
Boy, are we going out on a banger with a deck that I personally built off of a Weatherlight report, believe it or not. I think on EDH Rec, there are 14 total decks in existence of this reporting data. We're talking Bird of Prey. Eesha runs solo.
Yeah.
It's my Commander Eesha deck. Tuck, why don't you go ahead and read what the commander does? Okay. And then I'll kind of give a little bit of history on why I even wanted to build this deck, because it does seem like an odd one to just want to build willy-nilly.
And I have some questions on that as well. So Commander Eesha is a legendary creature, bird soldier. She, I believe, is a 2/4 flyer, protection from creatures, costs 2 colorless, white, and is a rare from Judgment, I believe. War glides on the simplest updrafts while peace struggles against hurricane winds. It is the way of the world. It must change. I was gonna say this is
nice.
Thank you. It's the hookah and that CBG smoker that you gave me, which actually,
CBG.
Yeah, I got the CBGBs again. I actually did like that. I think that did help me sleep last night. By the way,
that thing hit hard.
Did it? Okay.
Oh God.
But anyways, yeah, I agree with you. So it was interesting. Not only was it interesting when you said, like always, there's a trend here when Mr. Combo gets a deck idea in his head. It's all he talks about for conservatively a year before or after. So this was a deck that he talked a lot about, and a lot of times it's like, yeah, I'm really excited about this deck, and I do this all the time too, because me and Mr. Combo are effectively the same person. We're like, I like this one track mind, I'm really excited about this deck, I play it once or twice, and then I'm like, okay, on to the next one, right? Or I want to rejigger something else. But I think, like, not only is this a deck, not only was it interesting to see you build this because you already had a mono white deck that you rarely play, but you also, I feel like you play this pretty regularly. Like, I feel this is like kind of in your rotation, right?
Yeah, I would say for sure. I would put this up there in probably my top 6 decks I like to play like more frequently. Like, I love to play my Shirai deck. I love to play this. I love to play Atraxa. I love to play Gods. I love to play Girid and Karametra. And then honestly, all my other decks are just like, they're there.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So initially what really got my juices going on this, I cannot remember how many Weatherlight reports ago it was, but Squee McGee was talking about, I think it was Bird Tribal with someone else.
Yeah.
And then Eesha was one of the cards he recommended to be in the 99.
Right.
And it just hit this light bulb with me that I used to play with Eesha back in the day when Squee McGee and Rafi and Alex Proffer and Andrew McGowan all got me into Magic.
Right.
I remember Eesha, and in my head, I was like, oh, banger. Like, why wouldn't you run this? It's a 2/4.
Can you believe
creatures? God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I continued to get pub stomped because that was also the same time where I was like, oh, Angel Elf Tribal in a 60 card constructed.
Yeah, this will work.
So I was like, you know what? I want to build this. It has a little nostalgia feeling for me. But let's be honest, guys. mono white sucks.
It's
sucks real bad. It basically, mono white's good for removal, and that's basically it.
Right.
And so I was like, okay, if you're going to build a Commander Eesha deck, it has to be Voltron. There's no other theme you can do with that deck, unless you just wanted it to be horridly terrible. And so I was like, okay, you're going to do Voltron. Well, Voltron's very susceptible to a lot of stuff. I mean, just like basically your commander goes bye-bye, you kind of get screwed. So I decided, well, what else does mono white do? Well, it also does stax pretty good. So I decided to do mono white Voltron stax. I put in all the mono white stax cards I could, and it's not to be a stax player like GD, Hamburger Demon Poop, and his Grand Arbiter Augustine deck. You're not even on thin ice, you're under the ice. We put you under, we froze the top layer,
you're down there, and you're down there with Merit Lage, underneath in the dark depths. That's where you're at, you son of a bitch.
And so it's more to just slow my opponents down to where I'm not just necessarily play my commander. Oh, it gets removed. All right. Let me wait a couple turns to get the mana. Okay, play my commander. It got removed. I needed to be able to stop them somehow, slow them down somehow. And so I did put a lot of the white stax cards in here. And I think the deck doesn't play like a stax deck. It plays like a weird Voltron control deck to where my opponents can still do stuff. You're just not allowed to do it as efficiently. And so, and I think when people are like, oh, well, you're Voltron, but you're slowing me down, it doesn't seem to put people on tilt as much. Like, do you feel like when you see me play this and I kind of start doing those staxy pieces that you're like, GD, it's a stax deck, kill him now?
No, not at all.
I feel like more the threat comes from, oh, Esha's gonna smack me.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta kill Mr. Combo because of that.
I completely agree. And like everyone knows, I hate stax decks, right? I hate things that do this thing. But I will say, I think the big difference is every card that you have in here that's a stax piece is like specific to one strategy that you will lose to, right? And I think that's like one thing where it's like, you're playing with 4 people, and like if you cast one card, that maybe prevents people from playing a bunch of spells, there's probably someone else at the table who's like, this is also great because my deck can't beat that either, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest key is that you have nothing that deals with lands. You do not have mass land destruction. You do not have land lockdown pieces. You don't have any of that sort of stuff. And I think that will give you that will put. That is something
Good faith.
Yeah, exactly. That's like when you start messing with lands en masse around the table, that's what puts people on tilt. That's what makes games go on forever. Whereas the ones that you have here are just like, no, I have to play this card because this color cannot keep up with this with this style.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, I even have some cards in here that are, I believe, similar to my Greven deck. And I remember Tuck initially being like, why would you have this in here? And then it's like, after you get done talking about it, it's like, okay, I guess I could see why you need that because of how slow the deck plays. So, this is definitely a pet deck of mine. I'm super excited to talk about it.
Me too.
And I will say, I think this build you're seeing, Tuck, and the collective is seeing is from my experience, because I don't know if you remember, I had actually built a Voltron deck before with Rafik.
Rafik, right.
That was like my Zelda theme deck, and that failed so hard. And it's crazy because I was in blue, so I could do answers. It was just, if you build a whole deck around this one guy and then people keep removing it, then it's like, gosh, like what do I even do at this point? Which I do have some backup win cons in this deck that I've kind of learned through. So from a mana perspective,
I was gonna say,
pretty on par.
Yeah, I think you did. You really should dislocate your shoulder to pat yourself on the back on that one. The other thing
did you notice? I have 38 lands. I think it's like,
wow, really?
Other than my Lord Windgrace deck, I think this is the second most lands I have in any deck.
Wow. Interesting.
Mono white, man.
Yeah,
I need it.
I guess. And also, I think the CMC at 2/9 is probably about right. It probably plays a little bit like we've talked about this before. I think with like Kalia, like this deck probably plays like a higher CMC just because your commander's so vital, right? And that kind of can dictate the flow of the game and how fast you can get. But I think that's probably about on par for a white Voltron deck in my experience. Yeah. And then the budget is. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Because most of it is equipment. White does have some auras, but you're not doing like an Earl the Miststalker where it's tons of auras. And auras can vary a lot in CMC. Equipments for the most part are going to be 3.
Yeah, especially
maybe 4.
Especially the ones you want to be running, right?
Yeah.
And then the budget is like between 500 and 800, but that also includes, that's on TCG Player. The only thing that matters, Card Kingdom sucks. But I will say, I think that's because if you cut out the foils, the extended arts, the that sort of stuff that you have in here, I bet you could build almost this exact same deck for like a couple $100, maybe 400.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing is, I mean, I do, not to spoilers, but I do have a complete set of swords.
Yes, and that's, that'll put up the price.
I think that alone, to get a set of that would probably cost you $150.
Yep.
$180, because I think 2 of them are played in Modern, and so they get pretty expensive.
Yes, correct.
But I think the rest of the deck, pennies on the dollar for sure. And Eesha is one of those commanders that you can get a nice foil copy for like $15, and it is the old school foils that we're seeing in Time Spiraled, where it's like just the outside kind of border is and then it has the cool like
the slash through. Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah. So, and I will point it out also, Tuck, other than Lord Windgrace, this is the only deck I run Terramorphic Expanse in. I hate that card, but I was like, mono white, GD, I need it.
Why? Just shuffle?
Yep, shuffle effects, baby.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, guys. Well, let's get into this. We'll start with the green and the ramp section. I'll start this off with a card that came out in M21. And everyone got real excited about it because it's like what mono white needed so bad. But Tuck, I'm not gonna lie, it shocked me that this card's like $10.
Yeah, it's a rare. It's a chase rare from the set, partner.
Chase Mythic.
Chase Mythic, right?
Mangara the Diplomat. So this is 3 colorless white, legendary creature, human cleric. It has lifelink and it's a 2/4. Whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card. So I've talked about this throughout Voltron month. If you're playing a Voltron deck, you're going to get swung at.
Yep.
That's something you have to deal with. So I'm going to draw cards off of that.
Right.
Will I ever block with this card? Absolutely not. And then until I get my stacks pieces down, as you are doing your rampant growth and Economist Reach and doing all that stuff, I'm going to draw cards off of that.
Yep.
But the nice thing about this card is that it is limited to where you're only at most drawing 1 card off that effect turn. Which I think if the card was designed to where it's like whenever an opponent casts their second spell and beyond, draw a card for each spell. That would be something where it's like, oh, kill on sight, can't let him have it. But something like this is like, okay, Mr. Combo paid 4. It's a 2/4 lifelink. He may put some equipment on it, but do I really care if he's going to maybe in a rotation draw a card or 2? Not really.
Probably not,
And people can always set it up to where it's like, well, I'll just hit Mr. Combo with 1 creature and then tuck with 1 creature and he won't get to draw a card. And then it's like, cool. I mean, that kind of got me a little bit of lifelink because you didn't swing out at me because you didn't want me to draw a card.
Exactly.
Because you're just frightened of mono white.
Right, yeah. I completely agree. And I think, I mean, we've talked about this card before. I think the reason why it's so expensive is because, like, this needs to go in every mono white deck, right? Like, this is a mono white, like, borderline staple, definite standard, in my opinion. For all the reasons that you mentioned. So yeah, awesome inclusion, and you can always slap a couple swords on it if you just need that extra boost through.
Yeah, and that's one thing that, guys, you'll see kind of throughout this deck tech is I tried to build this Voltron deck to where obviously Eesha is like number 1, but I wanted to put other utility creatures where it's like, well, if Esha's too expensive or it's going to be too risk adverse for me, you know what? Mangara automatically has lifelink and has a decent butt. Throwing some equipment on there and swinging in for 6, that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to be upset by that. I'm not going to win the game off Mangara damage, but it does make a great blocker. And it gives great effects.
Totally.
So, Mangara is definitely one. I think Tucky hit it. It's probably a mono white staple.
Yeah.
Kind of like how a taxi card is in the grain section. I don't know if you're talking about it.
No, I'm not.
Okay. By the way, land tax, that's what I was referencing. Did you see it's $81?
Yeah, but I think it's because of the printing that you have in there.
Oh, really? Because I bought the cheapest one I could find.
Wow, really? Okay, let's take a peek. Yeah, well, no, okay. The Legends one is 80. The rest of them are 30 for the most part.
Oh, okay.
But still, good God.
Good God. Oof. All right, Tuck. What's your first grainy card?
God, I'm freezing. So it's so cold. So this is a card that I like a lot. I wish I would have got a copy, and I think that there's a card that we have talked about many times on the Weatherlight Report and in a bunch of other decks that is better than this in some decks, but I like this better in this one. And we were talking about a legendary land, and our friends down south of the border might refer to this as Slan del Señor Bandito, because we were talking about Hall of the Bandit Lord. That's the only reason why I chose it. It's the same in Spanish. So Hall of the Bandit Lord comes into play tapped. It's a legendary land. You can tap, pay 3 life, add 1 to your mana pool. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, that creature has haste. So again, the illusion I was talking about is like you can get a crashing drawbridge for sure, and this is about $20. So for a 10th or 100th of the price, you can get a crashing drawbridge.
Yeah.
But the fact that this takes up the land slot, you have a lot of ways to gain life and a lot of ways. So like 3 life doesn't matter and doesn't hurt as much. And like this, a lot of people complain that this comes into play tapped. Doesn't matter in this deck because you're trying to slow things down for everyone anyways. It just seems like such a great inclusion.
Yeah, for sure. Because, and I usually, when it comes to haste, like that's one I do struggle with when we kind of talk about our different categories here on the cast. Right. But I think this one makes sense because you really this helps you get established, because in Voltron you have to establish early and often.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
if you're not turn 4 swinging or turn 3 swinging, which is damn near impossible in this deck. Yeah. But if you're not swinging before turn 5, you're so far behind. You basically have to get out all your stax pieces and hopefully turn 7 I can do something. Yeah. And this is a card that, I don't have anything turn 1 because I'm in mono white. I'll play it, and you know what? By turn 3 or 4, that's just going to be swinging.
Yeah, exactly.
And even if it's only for 2, that still gets me with the ball rolling. Because the one thing I am very guilty of, some people play Voltron and they're like, I'm going to spread around the love. I think Mr. Bevers has done that with his Ural deck.
Yes, correct.
I'm one to where, I'm sorry, if I hit you with Eesha, even for 2, you're the only one I'm ever hitting ever again.
It is a one-on-one. We are playing heads up from here. The Hall of Bandit Lord is a really good card. I think it has a lot of utility. Is it worth $20 to have multiple copies? I don't think so, right? But I think it's worth. I would say it'd be worth just to have one, spend the money and just have one to do what you want with.
I completely agree. All right, my last one. Wait, we get 3, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's right. I'm on this cast. I should know.
Yeah, I don't think we have a guest.
So this is a card that came out in Commander Legends, did some work on game nights, and this card, I may pick up a lot of copies for the $5. 3.
Wait, hold on.
2.
Is this Is this fill the exact same slot as Mangara?
What do you mean?
In terms of value for CMC?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, here we go.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Keeper of the Accord! Woo!
It's 3 colorless, white creature, human soldier, rare, 3/4.
Yeah, I go for it. So cost 3 colorless and a white. As talked about at the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you may search your library for a basic plains card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. And it's a 3/4.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in the deck yet.
Okay. I was just gonna ask, because I think this was our most hyped card from Legends when we did our bad review or whatever we call it, right? I think all 3 of us were like, this is the creature to beat. But you have not seen it. You have not seen it in the wild yet.
I have not seen it.
Damn it.
But I could tell you guys right now, getting that 1/1 soldier creature token is a banger, and everyone's going to have more creatures than me.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm always going to make these soldiers. And the reason that's a banger is I've talked about it, and I will talk about it to ad nauseum. you have to have chump blockers or some way to prevent damage, or make it only to where one creature attacks you. Because there have been times where I play Eesha and I start to piss people off and they start swinging at me. And it's like, I can no longer swing with Eesha. I have to keep it back as a blocker because it has protection from creatures. And I'm just on the defense now. Right. You do not want to be on the ropes in mono white Voltron stacks. Like, you are just screwed if that's the case. So that's amazing. And then obviously the whole more lands than you, that's just a white issue in general. So, you know, how often is it going to trigger? I don't actually know if it's going to trigger a ton unless I'm playing like a rampy green player. Like, I think in our play group we see more artifact ramp than anything.
That's probably true.
Do see a little bit of land ramp. So I think I'm going to get more of the top than the bottom. And honestly, that's even what I saw on game nights. It was more the top effect than the bottom effect.
Got it. And so I agree. And I think, like, again, we're talking about each card, how it's stopping someone from beating you, right? This card on its this deck on its face can't beat tokens, and it can't beat a super explosive green deck. So this kind of covers both of those. I will say this though, I mean, we've seen this trend where green and blue have become like the superpowers, right? The Superman and I don't know, dark side of the color pie. And I think we're starting to see more and more greens being splashed into decks just for like that sort of utility of it, right? So I think that you will see that the second ability will probably happen a fair amount. Now, I'm not sure if it will be. I agree with you. The first will happen no matter what, right?
Yeah,
like you're gonna get that all the time. But I think the second ability still will trigger. You still will see your value out of that, especially for 4 mana with another 3/4.
Completely agree. Yep. All right, Tuck. What is your second grain card?
So we're talking about the first sword. And interestingly, this sword, it is not a sword of X and Z, or X and Y.
Oh.
And it is legendary, which is interesting because you would think that all the other swords would be legendary as well.
You know what's funny is every time we talk about this card on the cast, we always bring up like, it's weird. This is legendary.
Why is this legendary?
Why is it legendary?
So, Sword of the Animist, it's a real banger. 2 colorless for legendary artifact equipment. It's a rare. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever it attacks, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, and shuffle your library. Equip 2. The blade glows only for Zendikar is chosen. Wow. I mean, so this is one of the things I think people get frustrated when it comes to Voltron is to like, there's certain cards that you need to have, right? Like you can make your arguments for, you can make the argument for like the swords of X and Y. You don't need all of them or whatever, right? Which you kind of do, but you actually kind of do. But like this is a card that you have. If you were playing Voltron, you have to have this, no matter what color you're in. If you're playing Voltron and equipments, this immediately slots in. I mean, it would be good enough if it just was like when it attacks, it doesn't like, if it just got to the point of like when it attacks, you get the ability and then it doesn't do anything else. But the fact that it also pumps it by 1, which again isn't, it's stupid to think like that's important, but it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's just a bonkers card. And now people are starting to figure it out because it's $12.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think you're right, because I would put this card design in the same realm of Skull Clamp, to where they probably designed it and they were, in this case, probably saying like, oh, it's too weak to do it without the buff. Let's add the buff. Then they add it, print it, and then they're like, oh, well, that was actually, we made it a lot better. Like, whoopsie. Should have just left it alone. Because honestly, I do think if you didn't get the buff, I'd probably still have it in here because mono white needs ramp, but I don't think the card would be $13.57. I think it'd probably be a $5 card, a $3 card. But the fact that you get the buff as well, you're going to see it played a lot in your Voltron, because like that one piece of buff just makes it like maybe one turn sooner that I kill my opponent. And that is humongous in Voltron, because usually time is not your friend.
Exactly.
So, Sword of the Animist is a great card. I would say you're hard pressed to find a red or white deck or Boros deck that you would not put this in.
You just made, and I know exactly where I'm going to put mine that I had spared into my Boros deck that I don't like to play.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Are you okay?
Well, my last one. No, I got like this thing in my throat.
Get it together.
All right. So I am talking about a sword of X and Y for my last grain. And the reason I like this, though, is because it gives me card draw. Oh. And that's the only reason why. So I'm talking about Sword of Fire and Ice. 3 colorless, equipped for 2. It's an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 pro red blue. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it may deal 2 damage to any target, and you draw a card. Yep. I have a $50. I have a $50 card in here, so I could draw a card. That's it.
It's so funny too, where it's like you hate card draw so much that you're not even going to put in like aboard the Weatherlight or anything. You're like, nope, it has to be stapled to this other thing that makes the deck work.
Yep. 100%. And I will say the pro red blue is nice to have. Like, this is definitely a modal card to where you could say this could also be in the yeast, because then, you know, like, you're not worried about creatures attacking, but like red does a lot of damage based stuff. So like, oh, I can't get lightning bolted out of nowhere. The 2 damage to any target, like, yeah, you can point that at a planeswalker, so it could be a hops, but 100%, this is a grain, because I need that singular
I need 1 card a turn. I need 2 cards a turn, and this is going to give me one of them.
All right. Well, Tuck, what is your last grain?
I'm done. That's it. The Salon del Señor Bandito, Keeper of the Court, and the Sword of the Animus.
Right. God, I am just not on it today.
Get it together.
What am I doing with my life? Well, that's going to wrap up the grain section. Now we're going to go over the hop profile, and hopefully Mr. Combo gains his wits back. Tuck, why don't you start off? What's your first hops card?
So this is a card that has no business being this expensive, and also came from my most excited but most disappointing deck that I've ever purchased. And it might just be a little baby bubble cat.
Oh my God. We
are talking Alms Collector, 3 colorless and a white, for a creature cat cleric. It's
$13.
Yes, I know, right? 3/4 with flash. If an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card. There is no justice when some profits and others go without. So it's so funny that like this card is expensive, even though its effect isn't amazing, because they're still drawing a card. Like, if you compare this to like a Hole Breacher, for example, there's no comparison, right? But since this is in white, they're like, best we can do, $13 here. So I think it's I think like we talked about, the big reason why I like this deck, or this card rather, is like it reads a lot better than it is, but when you're up against decks that are drawing like crazy, this is the way that this is like the card to establish parity with them, right? We've been talking about how it's like all these different deck archetypes that you are struggling with. This is the answer to that sort of like blue draw, blue-green draw, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I completely agree. The flash speed is humongous. I think if this was just remove flash, it's a $1 card.
Oh,
maybe
yes,
$2.
Definitely.
The flash makes it phenomenal. And, you know, it is a 3/4, so I kind of talked about with Mangara. If I need to like throw some equipment on it and do something, it has a good base already established. But yeah, hey, I'm going to Blue Sun Zenith for 50. I'm going to do it for 1, and I get 1.
Yeah, exactly. I also think it's also interesting that we've talked about every single creature that we talked about right now that plays a specific utility. Every single one of them has had 4 toughness and has cost 4 mana, including your commander.
Hey, I'm just trying to be on mana parity.
Hey, that's all good, man. But yeah, so cute card. I'm glad you left it in.
All right. Well, my first one is not going to be a stax card, but it's going to be another 4 mana instant. And this card, for me, when it comes to a Voltron deck, yes, getting rid of your commander is one way to slow down Voltron, but the other way is to get rid of all your equipments. Get rid of all your stax pieces, for example, in this deck. So my Faith will be rewarded with Faith's Reward for 3 colorless white instant. Return to the battlefield all permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. And Tuck, Question, I assume we don't have a voice for Idris, War Priest of Food.
We do not. It is the Wild West for this work that you want to do here. And try not to throw up.
I thought the wind was ushering me to my final destination, but it lifted me to my feet and I fought on.
That's really good. I would say that was like if Arnold Schwarzenegger was a Beatle. That's a really good. That was great. Your voice work is out of control. It's been really good, man.
So I mean, the card pretty much says exactly what it's being used for. It is you just austere commanded my entire board. Let me bring it back. Now, granted, I've never been able to use this card.
Oh, really?
I have had it in hand, but I've never had a situation where I've wanted to use it. And I feel like this is a lot like that black card that's 4 colorless black instant, but you get to return all permanents from all graveyards or all creatures
through an encore.
Yeah, I think it's a lot like that where this is a hops because it is in reaction to what your opponents are doing, but it's almost a spice because it's so situational. Like you have one of this in your 99 and it has to be like the perfect storm of a board wipe to make you even want to use it. Because I guess paying 4 to just get Eesha back, depending on how much she costs to play from the command zone at that point, might be, hey, I'm basically paying her her normal CMC instead of 8 or 10. But it is a very situational card. But I think the right situation, your opponents are going to lose their mind. Yeah.
And I think to your point, you are playing a white deck. You do have a bunch of board wipes and removals in here as well, right? So there's a time where you're like late game, you have piles of mana. You're like, I need to board wipe to destroy all equipments or all artifacts because this person's about to go off, right? But then you can do this in conjunction with one of those. So I think you have a great point where this is another one that kind of fits into like grain, hops, yeast because it completely depends on when you cast it. I have cast this card several times, and every time I do is a complete blowout. Every single time.
Yeah. And before we move on to Tuck's next one, I think, Tuck, you forgot I'm in mono white. I will never have piles of mana.
That's very true. That is a fair point.
All right, Tuck. Well, what is your second hop?
So I want us all to take a deep breath and maybe just have a little quiet time. Let's slow it right down. And maybe the sound of silence will rupture some eardrums because it is a deafening silence. This card's great. 1 white for an enchantment. Again, from that shit set, the bit that won't die, Throne of Eldraine. It's an enchantment. Each player can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell each turn. They have forsaken their vows. The Edict of the Circle demands their voices be silenced. I guess I should have asked if we had a bit for Sir Tasdale. Well known.
I can agree we do not.
Yes. So I think this card, what's that other one that's from this set too that sucks called Fires of Invention? I feel like they're and it's the same card that's gotten printed. Hey, guess what, ding dongs? I'm only going to be casting 1 spell a turn no matter what I do. So now you are now playing the same game with me. So that's why it's I think when people look at this deck list, they kind of think why do you have all these redundant effects? It's because again, the parity at the table, putting everyone on the same train with the same resources that you have.
And I will say, this card, if it said your opponents can't cast more than 1 non-creature spell per turn, it would piss everyone off. But with it being symmetrical, there are going to be people at the table, Tuck, like you mentioned, where it's well, I'm probably only casting 1 spell a turn anyways.
Right.
This helps me. And it does say non-creature spell. So it also it's hey, I'm stopping the combo players. You want to live in the red zone, live in the red zone. Hey, Duff, play all your knights.
Yeah,
do it all day long.
Do it, please.
Go to town is just then, hey, Sir Nathan, screw you. No non-creature spells for you. And yes, I'm picking on you this morning. So yeah, great card. And I think this is one of the, was it this card or a rule that Squee McGee played when we were playing out on the patio?
It was this. I'm going to cut you off right there. It was this card.
Yeah, and just nothing can happen.
So, and it's 50 cents. So Big fan. Big fan of Deafening Silence.
All right. Well, my second one, I'm seeing a trend where I'm picking everything for CMC, apparently. It's a 4CMC.deck, if you didn't know.
There it is.
Yeah, my CMC is 229.
Wait, is this another creature?
Yes, it's another creature.
I already know what it is.
And this is a card that I have done before and has been a blowout. Selfless Squire. Phenomenal. 3 colorless white, creature, human, soldier. 1/1, $5. Good lord.
Yeah.
It has flash. When it ETBs, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you this turn. Whenever damage that would be dealt to you is prevented, put that many +1/+1 counters on Selfless Squire. So, I've talked about it. The whole reason me and Tuck picked our grain card earlier, Keeper of the Accord, is because I kind of get these little dudes. Yeah, I could get some ramp, but like I mentioned, getting those soldiers helps kind of stave off the wave of damage. But eventually someone like a Squeeze could be like, you know what, screw you, swinging in for with 20 elves with, oh gosh, I keep wanting to say Triumph of the Hordes, but that's not Overwhelming Stampede. Or, a Crater Hoof. Well, flash this out, nothing happens, and now I got a 100 meter
and 15 equipment to put on it.
Yeah. So the card's great, and it is something that can be impactful because sometimes they're using the stack where it's like, I'm going to do a loop that's just going to drain you of your life or deal damage X, Y, and Z. And so technically, you could flash this out and then they could be like, okay, well, I don't want to do that anymore because I don't want you to just get infinitely huge with this creature. Right. And that still is good. I don't need this thing to prevent 50 to 80 damage and get 50 to 80 counters. I'm really just needing it to hey, you have to stop hitting me with whatever thing you're doing. Now focus on my opponents. And that saves me for a turn. Because that's really what these kind of cards are trying to do. Save me till the next turn, and maybe I can Esha you to death.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think this has only been printed once, which is why it's so expensive. I don't think it's seen any other reprintings besides Commander, whatever that is. Thin Shield, Commander Thin Shield edition.
I think that's Commander 16.
Yeah, you're right. I was gonna say it's Traxa one. There's not much more to be said about this besides the fact that this just saves you turn. This just saves you and gives you another chance to go, right? And this card might as well... There's a world that exists where this card just says, it's effectively, Final Fortune or whatever, where it's just, you get this is a get-out-of-jail-free card, you get an extra turn.
Yep. And you know what's interesting, Tuck? I was just thinking about it. This card, with this kind of deck... people aren't going to see a instant speed 4 CMC fog effect in mono white. It's literally going to catch people off guard because people are going to be like, well, combo has 4 mana up. You may have a Plowshares, a Path, but there are no instant speed board wipes in mono white. And so they just won't really see that coming. And I don't run Veluk and Ori in this deck, so it's not like they even have to worry about that. So it is just a out of left field swing for sure.
Agreed. Yeah, that's true.
Well, what is your last hot?
I'm so glad you kept this in here because I think this is one of the most criminally underplayed. And people used to laugh at me. They laughed at me, and now I'm the one laughing me on this podcast. I'm gonna put a cloak on. Ooh. It might be just a little haunted cloak. People need to play this card. I've been screaming it from the rafters. 3 colors for an artifact equipment. It's a common that you get a foil version of for 38 cents. Bear the weight of so many spirits, and you'll surrender civility and restraint to savagery and instinct. Equipped creature has vigilance, trample, haste, equip 1. It's such a blowout.
So good.
And listen, I know we've talked about Swords of X and Z and whatnot. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I think this is better than at least 2 of them.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say.
No. I'm not. I may be a madman, but I'm not legally insane. I'm not the Joker. So just the fact, I think these all each one of these abilities in a Voltron deck are critical to winning, right? Vigilance, so you have your blocker, especially with this one. Trample, so you can get damage through. Even though she has evasion, we're now flying is becoming the new hotness in creatures, right? Or reach.
Well, remember, it's protection from creatures.
Oh, so good point. Yeah,
she can't be blocked. Period. It's really only in the deck for the haste and
vigilance, right?
Those are huge.
Agreed. And I guess to that point, now that I'm thinking about it, the trample still is good because this is like this turns your other creatures more into your commander. Right?
Oh, gotcha.
Like if you have to attack it with Megara or Mangara or whatever, this will get you there. So again, everyone has policies lying around. Try it out. See how it feels. Maybe it'll keep you warm. Maybe it'll drive you mad with its previous dead tenants. But give Haunted Cloak a chance.
Yeah, and the main reason I have it in this deck, guys, is the equip for one.
Yeah. Yes.
And the vigilance. Because Eesha's gonna get removed,
right.
And it will be the point in the game if I haven't been able to go quick, which it's hard to do. I'm gonna be on a low life total. I'm gonna need to try to kill people as quick as possible, but I still have to keep blockers. And this literally does both of those to where it's like I do the 3 mana investment early, but then later in the game when I may have to pay 8 for Eesha, well, it's only 1 to put the Haunted Cloak on.
Right.
And yeah, I'm only dealing 2 damage, but maybe at that point you've already taken 14 or 16.
Maybe that's all you need.
You're getting closer and closer to death. And so for 37 cents getting a foil copy, it's like no brainer.
Yep, 100%.
All right. So I'm glad you talked about at least one Stax card. I am also talking about a Stax card because you know what mono white just doesn't like? I don't like it when people cheat stuff in. That's unfair.
Which one?
So Containment Priest just gives you the middle finger. Colorless white, creature human cleric, it's a 2/2. It does have flash. If a non-token creature would enter the battlefield, if it wasn't cast, exile it instead. Yeah. Some protection requires a bit of finesse. So being 2 mana, I can even keep this up for my turn 2 play, let it go around the table. And if someone's just like, oh, I'm going to, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know how you cheat something out in turn 2, but I'm sure there's the gross ways to do it.
What's that one? Tamio's Vengeance? If some maniac wants to do that.
There you go. Be able to flash this in. But this is bigger when I'm playing like a Gishath deck. I'm looking at you, Duff, cheating in all those dinos. No, sir, you're
yes.
not. Talking to Kalia the Vast deck. No, you're not. And I do think, once again, the way the card is worded makes certain people at the table upset, but then a lot of other people are like, oh, I'm fine with it because it says non-token creature.
Right.
Tokens are the ones that obviously you can't cast those. And if it just said if a creature would enter the battlefield and if it wasn't cast, exile it instead, that would put everyone on tilt. But the fact that it leaves the token players out of it, I gain a bit of good fortune to where it's like, well, you're really just stopping the dinosaur deck that's going to overwhelm me with my, Thopters or my little Drakes. So great card, 33 cents for the full art foil from M21. Great pickup for a mono white.
Dude, yeah, agreed. And you didn't even talk about like dredge decks, like Get Wrong Monster. That's those sort of loops that those things go through, stops it cold. The funniest part is this used to be like a $20 card.
What?
Because it was only printed in the mono white 2014 Commander with Nahiri. Yeah, and I won one of those, and it was one of those things where that deck, the box. Buying the box, you're like, okay, I'm buying a Containment Priest and getting all this other, all the other shell of a deck.
But basically, like the severe, I'm buying Dockside Extortionist, and it
happens to come with all these other cards.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up the hot profile. Now we're going to head over to how this deck could win the game in the East package, and I'll kick this off. So she has protection from creatures.
Yep.
And I assume it's a she. I just always
I was so after getting blasted on the Discord, I did confirm it is a lady bird.
Perfect. She has protection from creatures, so you don't have to worry about a Brea or anything like that trying to ping her off, or even forcing Eesha to block and dying from damage. I'm good. Hell, it's even protected from Eldrazi cast effects because those are creatures. So The one way to get rid of her is a board wipe. Well, how do you prevent board wipes? Indestructible. So dark steel plate gets you there. And $17.
No way! What?
Holy hell.
Seriously?
That's what it says.
Wow, that is absurd.
So this is 3 colorless artifact equipment, rare, equipped for 2. The equipment itself has indestructible, and equipped creature has indestructible. And Tuck, do we have a Koth of the Hammer?
Ooh, no, but we should.
Voice.
What do you think? I'm
going off the rails.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm here for it.
If there could be no victory, then I will fight forever. So I feel like Koth would be like this big, rough and tumble guy, but then he has like the super high pitch voice.
Yeah. Okay.
It's kind of like if you've ever watched Grown Ups with Adam Sandler and those guys. If you remember the pool, like the water park scene where like all the moms are looking at like the super like buff, like ripped guy and like the tiny Speedo, and he like comes up and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, he's like on some, like bursts out laughing. Some horrible Australian accent.
That's how I imagine Koth.
Wow, what a deep cut. God, that movie's horrible.
Yeah, it's not good. But it's you know what? Night of the Museum, that's a gym. So
the most bizarre.
I love this card actually for a lot of decks.
Yeah.
Because of the fact the equipment itself is indestructible and exile artifact effects are very few and far between. And I'm going to be honest, if someone has one and Darksteel Plate's on the battlefield, they will not use it because they're going to be more worried about a Darksteel Forge or what's the one where if you get up to 10 counters or 20 counters, you win the game?
What is that?
I used to run it in a Traxa.
I know.
But that one's also indestructible.
Brexine Reactor or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah. But there are so many artifacts in Magic that have indestructible that are leaps and bounds more powerful than Darksteel Plate. No one will.
Darksteel Colossus, right? If they're like, oh shit, they're running Darksteel Plate, they probably have a Colossus in there if they're doing some sort of like jank, like artifact build, right? So when we talk about Voltron, there's like kind of 2 things you have to think about, right? Or if you're talking about commander-centric decks, you have to think about like, do I want to protect from individual targeted removal or do I want to protect from board wipes, right? So when you're building a deck, this is if you're having a commander that doesn't go into the red zone, you can make the argument that like, okay, do I want to cut Lightning Greaves for this because I think there's going to be more board wipes, right? And obviously in this deck you have both, but I think like to your point, that's the kind of mentality that this people should go through with this card, and they should be playing more of it. Although now that's
no,
God no. I'm about to blow your mind for prices right now.
Oh God. All right, Tuck. Well, what is your first winner?
Another card from the Kitty Cat deck. This card makes copies of itself and has no right being as expensive as it is. And it's not legendary either.
$24.
Yeah. Bloodforce Battle Axe should know.
You want to hear a funny story, Tuck, before you read off the card?
Yeah.
When the Kitty Cat deck came out, I own 5 or 6 copies of this.
You bought a bunch
I bought a bunch so I could have the token copies. So basically, you're telling me I have hundreds of dollars sitting in my token binder now.
Go find them. But Bloodforge Battle Axe is a colorless, you're 100% right, colorless artifact equipment, a rare from the Kitty Cat deck. I think that was 2017. How many do you have?
I got 3 sitting here, and I think I have 2 or 3 in other decks.
Put them in your trade binder, you maniac. Okay, or I'll just put them right next to
$75.
Equipped creature gets +2/+0. Whenever your equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Bloodforge Battle Axe, equipped to spilled blood, always begs more of the same, begets more of the same. Fun card, cute card, good card. I would never in 1,000 years pay $25 for this. No, there's no way. So anyway, have you been able to get the chain going in this?
Oh yeah. I think I've actually ran out of legit Bloodforge Battle Axes that I have on my token binder, because I think the most I've created is like, because I've ended up putting like 2 or 3 on and so each of those make their own copy. It's very much like the Polyraptor type deal. Once you get one, then it's
just a snowball
after that. It's just usually the hard part is getting the initial one done. But with protection from creatures, it's damn near impossible to get rid of it with Eesha unless you're going to artifact removal or creature removal if she doesn't have some sort of protection other than that. But I have so much protection in the deck that she's probably going to have protection. So you're absolutely right. Good card, functional card, has a place in a lot of decks. Not for $24.
No way.
All right. My second yeast is a card that I'm in love with. It's a shade under $5. It's a 1-drop. And it's an enchantment.
Bonkers. What it is.
Card absolute banger.
Yeah.
Sigarda's Aid. Single white enchantment. You may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash. Whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach it to target creature you control. The Order of St. Traft found new strength with Sigarda's support. So,
I mean, this is the best card in the deck, right?
Well, I'm going to make an argument here, Tuck, and don't shoot me. This is a better 1-drop than land tax in this deck. Better than Soul Ring. It's better than land tax.
Yeah.
I know Soul Ring, technically I could get turn 2 Eesha. I would rather get this and do turn 3 Eesha. And
I think you're...
Sword of Feast and Famine? Boom.
I think you're right.
Flat. Oh my God.
It's so good. It's wild. And I think this is like the weird... You have kind of built this... There's kind of 2 ways when you're building out... Voltron decks with equipments, right? You either do it like the efficient way, like what you've done mostly in this deck, right? Where it's like a lot of swords, like you don't really get the CMC above 3 to play equipment. But then there's this other build where it's like, I'm only running like Argentium armor and up, World Slayer, all these like super high-end things. And then you use like Stone Hero Giant, which you don't have this, and those sort of things, so like cheat those big ones into play. But I think either way, Sigarda's Aid for 1 does, like, if you're running a Voltron deck, auto include, right? Especially it just got reprinted, so it's only $5. Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a better card than Soul Ring.
For sure. All right, Tuck.
This is a blowout.
What's your second yeasty?
I thought you were going to talk about this because it's got a pretty lady on it. And I want to know if you actually bought this or if you cracked it. It's time to get a little mystic in here. We're getting a little mystical. With our homegirl Stoneforge Mystic. So colorless and a white for a core artificer. It's a rare. When Stoneforge Mystic enters the battlefield, you may search the library for an equipment card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And then a colorless white, tap it, you may put an equipment card from your hand onto the battlefield. Did you own this for a while, right? Or did you go buy this fancy full art?
Well, so this copy from Double Masters I cracked because remember I started buying all the VIP boosters.
Oh, right.
And so I ended up getting it from that, and I actually got most of the swords from that as well because all of those are the Double Master alt arts. I think I had to buy a few of them, which I was surprised at how cheap they were because. I would have thought they would have been more expensive. But no, I've owned a Stoneforge Mystic for a hot minute because I actually won it off of Twitter when I first joined when we were doing the cast from Missouri MTG, the infamous grab bag connoisseur. He did something where it's like, tell me a story about how you got into Magic or EDH or something like that. And I did. And he basically sent me one that he had like, someone like did a full art altar of it. And so... yeah, I may still have it. I think I might have put it in my cube, actually.
Nice.
I tried to trade it when we were in Vegas, and they're like, oh, this is damaged. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, literally, that guy at that booth gave it to me.
I can see him.
Like, I could see him. And they're like, yeah, we'll give you... I think they were trying to give me like $5 for it or $10. And I was like, nah, I'm good, man. I don't even like the card that much. And I know you're hot on it, and you'll kind of talk more about it. But I'm not going to let it go for $5 or $10.
No, decidedly not. So again, like, I think when you're building out decks, you kind of have 2 choices, right? And this one, you can build this deck to... There's a card like Sigarda's Aid that no matter you're building a Voltron deck is good, right? But then there's a way that you can build Voltron decks, especially with her, where I'm sure you thought about it, of just going all auras, right?
Yeah.
And I think Stoneforge is a great card if you're doing the former. Of like, I'm focusing on equipments. I don't care about auras. And that's how I'm going to try to win out with this. I think that she still has utility. She's effectively a pay 2 draw card in this deck, right? Yeah. But in the alternate version of this, where you are cheating out those big high CMCs, she really starts to shine there. Either way, if you're doing this white equipment rigmaroles, I would say if you have like 6 or more equipments that are good, this goes into the deck.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, the reason for me it's in the yeast is because I can get the most likely sword that's probably going to help me win the game and get rid of that last opponent that maybe I've been struggling with. But the other thing that I do like about it is, because I do have the complete set of swords and other equipments, there is something to be said. I'm in mono white. I don't usually have 12 to 15 mana to where I can play a bunch of stuff from my hand. So there are situations where it's like, she doesn't have summoning sickness. I'm going to let it go the rotation, see what people have played. What do I need protection from? What do I need to do? Even if it's a Swiftfoot Boots, which basically you're paying the exact same mana for 2 or 2, I kind of hold off and it's like, what's going to happen? Plus, the cool thing about this, blue players hate it. It gets around counter magic. Unless you're going to play a disallow or some counter ability effect. And I've done this in games, not with Stoneforge, but with other cards, to where it's like, oh, you have blue open. I need to figure out a way to get what I want on the battlefield without.
Yeah, right.
Great way to do it, because Sword of Feast and Famine, that's an immediate counter target.
Yes.
Can't do that with Stoneforge Mystic. Yep. So it's a good card. I think it's great for a Voltron deck, especially if it's a white one. Is it worth all the money? And like, isn't it banned in Modern?
I don't remember.
Just got unbanned.
It was banned.
There's some rigmarole with it. It's a good card. Do I think it's worth the price tag? No.
Probably not.
But what do I know?
Yeah.
I just talk for fun.
Yeah, exactly. We're just here, man. We're just here.
All right. My last one. I alluded to it earlier in the episode. You need a backup way to win. If Eesha becomes too expensive, you need a big old dinosaur to come in and just wreck.
Let's
3,
go!
2, 1.
Zatalpa Primal Dawn! Let's go!
6 colorless, white, legendary creature, elder dinosaur, 4.
And coming in at a rare slot for some insanity. All right, here we go.
At 22 cents.
At 22 cents. Well, I know why, because this costs literally 1 million mana. Flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, indestructible. The sky takes flight and the earth trembles. Mr. Combo, hot take. Hot take coming in. This card is a mono white staple. If you're right,
no.
Oh yeah.
No.
Tell me you tell me a game where this card hasn't been played and you don't immediately poop your pants. This is a pants poop card. It's a pants pooper. This card says it's 6.
I wouldn't run this in my SRAM vehicle deck.
But that's because that deck is a fake deck. It's really supposed to be a red deck that you're just forcing into being white.
That's fair. So yeah, this is your backup commander in the deck, because there will be times where Eesha costs 10 or more, and it's like, well, for 8, I could basically get Eesha because it has indestructible, trample, vigilance, double strike, flying. It's gonna wreck house. And when you start, and the cool thing about it, and some people know this, some people don't, all the swords of X and Y's, or when you deal combat damage, what happens with double strike? It happens twice.
I'm going to stop you there. This is... David, I was going to say something. And this is in a deck. This is your backup commander. Doesn't matter what deck it is. It's so good. Also, this was the originator. Zatalpa has a big place in my heart and in the collective's heart, because this was a card that spawned the guys, I'm just playing cards. I don't know what you're angry about. It came from this big bitch right here.
I like that big bitch. I need to get an altar of Zatalpa, or it's just a big bitch.
It's like that scene from Deuce Bigalow where it's like, that's a huge bitch.
All right, guys. Let's wrap up the East package. Now we're going to head over to the Spicy Meat to Ball and Big Tuck. Surprisingly, a lot of options in here.
And this one, I don't know why it's in Spice. I think I know, but this is another stax card. And it makes people rest easy. It's Rips. We're talking Rips here. Rest in Peace, R.I.P. Colorless and a white for an enchantment. When Rest in Peace enters the battlefield, exile all cards from all graveyards. If a card or token would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. I will keep watch, which is, I'm pretty sure Gideon, is that supposed to be? It's about $3. So, we talked about that. This is the easiest way to deal with graveyard decks and the like of those. So everyone knows this card. It's a mono white standard of some variety, right? So I guess my question is, do you have it in the East because it can backfire on you? And then
Spice, yes, because you'll actually see, and it's not one of the ones that I'm talking about. My next one is a contradiction to Rest in Peace, which is why this one's also in Spice, but then also Sword of Light and Shadow. Is also in Spice because it needs a graveyard. So I do actually have things in the deck, and we didn't talk about it. I have Miria Shepherd.
Yep.
And here, that needs a graveyard. Yeah. So actually, I kind of have like a mono white graveyard super sub theme. There's like 4 or 5 cards in the deck that want stuff in the graveyard to pull back out. So it can backfire on me. And honestly, in this deck, I'm not that stressed about other people's graveyards. Because to me, Voltron, I'm trying to end the game by like turn 8.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do it as quick as possible. Yeah. Long story short. And Rest in Peace doesn't help that in any way, shape, or form. Would it be better for me to throw another like Argentum armor or some like banger equipment in here? Probably. But it is nice to have that interaction with other opponents' graveyards just in case they are trying to do some Dredge, Golgari type stuff. All right, well, mine, like I said, direct contradiction to this one. I love this card. I hate that it's 6 mana. I think I've been able to play it once. And the one time I did, it was a banger. We're talking about Martyr's Bond. It reads so good.
It really does.
It's just so expensive. 4 colorless white enchantment. Whenever Martyr's Bond or another non-land permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a permanent that shares a card type with it. What's Gideon's voice?
I don't know if we have one.
Do we have like a set one?
Should we? We don't.
I mean, what did you do for Rest in Peace?
I don't know. It's just like generic, like, I'm Captain Kill Guy.
All right. One life at a time. That's how the world will be saved. So,
I like it.
Obviously, this is an amazing card because people are going to be trying to remove my stuff as often as they can. And it kind of puts it in a modal your choice situation. Do you want to remove Martyr's Bond and just take the one hit on enchantments? Or are you trying to get rid of Feast and Famine? Are you trying to get rid of the Wanderer? Maybe there's some Stax creature on the battlefield. Right. That. It's just... Do you take your licking now and then hopefully someone else has the removal for the thing that you need to get rid of? Or are you going to remove the thing that you need to get rid of? Because we talk about it all the time. Enchantment removal is
still at a premium, And it's kind of like the same thing when like we've talked about like tutoring, right? It's like, well, do you counter the tutor? Do you deal with the tutor, or do you deal with the thing that the tutor gets, right? And I think we're
and what if the thing you get, it's like, what if it's uncounterable? Right. It's like you don't know.
Exactly. And I think that's the same thing here. I agree. This card reads really good, especially because it's each opponent, right? But I'm in the same boat. I've run this in decks. I've never seen it cast. And I feel that this is a card that decision won't even be made because someone's going to counterspell it. Or they're going to immediately, it's going to come down and it's just immediately going to get shot, right? But yeah, I think if it does stick, especially if you don't have that much and you only have like artifacts, maybe a creature or two, an enchantment, people are going to wonder like, well, is it worth keeping this around because it's going to stop that guy's creatures and that guy's enchantments and that sort of thing. So interesting card. I completely agree with you where it does fit into the spice in this current build.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up the spice package. Now we're going to head over to the bottle capping. And as a reminder, it's going to be big text and nice cuts and adds to the deck. They're going to be under 5, under 50, and a no budget recommendation. We just can't talk about snow-covered plains. All right, guys. I'm going to start it off with my under $5. I like this card because and you'll see a kind of theme in my cuts because I think I overestimated or overvalued how good this effect is.
Okay.
So I'm going to cut Teo the Sheriff.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, 2 colorless white, legendary planeswalker Teo. And the reason I had it in here is it has a static effect of you have hexproof. I think I put way too big of a premium on the target player piece of this. It's a thing, but I don't think it's a big enough thing that I need to like have dedicated cards to deal with it. Not yet.
I think you have, and the rest of it is, so you have hexproof and then -2 create an 0/3 white wall creature token with defender. Okay. And it comes
on with 5 loyalty.
Yeah. So I think you're right. I like this card, right? I've talked about how exciting this card is, but I think in a vacuum, it doesn't really punch at the weight class you want it to. And we didn't talk about it, and I don't know if you're going to cut or not, but like you already have the ley line that does this in here. And to me, that's just a better card to have than this.
Yeah, I'm cutting actually.
You are? Wow. Okay. You weren't joking. You're taking the shears to it.
Yeah, pretty much. So the card I'm going to add, though, is a card that I did not know existed. Thank God there were 14 people with their deck lists for EDH Rec to pull the data. So I'm actually going to add a aura, which I don't have a lot of in the deck.
You do not have one.
I'm going to add it. Yeah. Entangler. That's amazing. 2 colorless white enchant creature. Enchanted creature may block any number of creatures.
Whoa! What a blowout!
Banger.
That's so good.
39 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. And I get it. I can see why it's priced so cheap is because of the fact that like most creatures don't have protection from creatures. So, and of course there is flavor text. We don't know who it's coming. Oh, no, it's
Latula.
Oh, God. Latula. All right. And it's a chick. All right. Okay.
You got it. Feel the voice. Feel the voice.
Tell me again, said Latula, raising her fist. How just one woman held back an entire Keldon platoon.
You sound like it's kind of like the old woman from Game of Thrones. A little bit, like kind of regal. It's a good reading.
Oh, wait, what old woman?
I don't remember.
Are you talking about like the Lady of Thorns?
Kind of. Yeah, I thought it was a little bit of that, like a younger.
See, I was trying to channel more my like Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia.
Yeah,
the rally.
Type thing. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so it's a 4-drop for a 4-drop, so I'm not increasing my CMC, which is great. It's a dirt cheap card, so I'm not going to feel upset buying a foil copy of it, because I'm sure a foil copy is dirt cheap as well. And this is a thing. Put this on Eesha, and if I can give her Vigilance, I'm almost untouchable unless it's a bounce effect or if I don't give her Indestructible of some kind. Yeah, no, that's an awesome card. I've never heard that before. Just seems like a complete beating. So I'm also cutting Teo for the same reasons that you may mention, right? Good card, maybe wrong deck for it. So I'm going to cut it for something, again, I'm adding 2 things that effectively draw you a card because you refuse to do them. So I'm even playing your game, Mr. Combo. I'm doing it the way that you want. So there's a card that came out in Commander Legends. It's about $1. That I think it's another creature that's a 3 colorless and a white, so it fits the theme there. And I think that this is worth running and seeing what happens. So I want to talk about Armored Sky Hunter. So 3 colorless and a white for a creature, cat, knight, flying 3/3. When it attacks with the top 6 cards of your library, you may put an aura or equipment card from among them onto the battlefield. If an equipment is put on the battlefield this way, you may attach it to a creature you control. Put the rest of those cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, and I just crunched numbers, and you have 19 artifacts, and I think almost all of them, minus like a handful, so probably 15. You have 15 hits potentially in 6 cards, right? Which is pretty good. Yeah. Again, this is probably better in the build that we talked about, where it's like super high CMC. But worst case scenario is this is also now your 3rd backup commander behind the Zaltalpa. It's got evasion, it's got a good body, and can kind of boost himself. Yeah, no, I like that. And honestly, I know we've kind of talked about like the alternate version high CMC. I think with the restriction of being mono white, any help is good help. Right. And if this effectively draws a card and cheats it out, that does two things that mono white doesn't do very well at all. So yeah, I could see this over Teo for sure. It kind of makes me want to try to find something else to cut, like maybe a stax card, because maybe this helps me in the game quicker to where I don't need the stax card to do it.
Yeah. So again, I'm keen on this card, but I don't have any data or any sort of thing on it. But I think it'd be a good fit for this deck.
All right. Well, my under 50. Like I mentioned, I'm getting rid of this whole hexproof stuff for me. Leyline of Sanctity. It is a good card. You could argue it's a mono white staple because of its effect. I don't think the me having hexproof is honestly that big of a deal. So 2 colorless white enchantment coming in about $2. If Leyline's in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield, turn 0 play, and you have hexproof. So don't need to get into like why I don't need hexproof anymore. I do think I think a player having hexproof is an overrated ability to where there are better cards to put in the deck. And this card, I am shocked I do not have in the deck. It just baffles me. It's a 4-drop, keeping with the 4 Hammer of Nazar.
Oh, yeah. What are you doing
here? 4 colorless legendary artifact equipment. You can get it for about $10. Whenever it or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has indestructible, so that solves one of those issues. And equip 4, which in theory I should never have to do, because once I give Eesha indestructible, I should be set. Outside of a bounce or an exile effect, I should be good. And this does everything the deck wants. Gives Eesha more protection. It buffs her, so now it's a 4/4 hitting you, and it helps me cheat mana because I don't have to pay the equip costs. Yes, alternate version, it's probably better in the bigger CMC equipment equip decks, but I think for this, even if I'm saving 4 mana a turn, that allows me to play an extra sword of X and Y.
Right.
I would absolutely do that. Instead of just paying 1 and equipping it, I can play 2 now. That's fantastic.
This card is just, I've seen it. I saw it on 2 different games when I played a week ago Friday with Marketing Ross et al. And both times it was like the card to beat on the table. One card drove everything that was happening on the table. It drove the politics, it drove the removal, it drove everything.
Wow.
Like, I think now that this is $10, so we talk a lot about like, is it worth it? Unquestionably, this card's going to go back up to $20, and look, there's going to be a new equipment package commander that comes out that's going to be unbeatable. Grab this if you don't have one, because this card is worth every penny.
Yeah, completely agree. I just can't believe I overlooked it when I was building the deck. It's not like it just came out. So, all right,
and you have one because you have half the cards from the Kitty Cat deck that this was first printed in.
Oh, that's true. God, where is that? I have no idea where that's at. Anyways, Tuck, what is your under 50 cut and under 50 add?
So I'm cutting one more spice, and I kind of I struggled on what cards to cut, right? Because it is fairly streamlined, but the one thing I wasn't seeing enough of was your double strikes. Right? I didn't see a lot of enablement on that. So I'm actually going to cut Elspeth Knight Errant. I'm
going to cut that for my personal recommendation too.
So 2 colorless white, Planeswalker Elspeth, comes in with 4 loyalty. I think it's a mythic, around $10. So +1, or why don't you read the plus abilities?
+1, you get to make a white soldier.
Yep.
+1, target creature gets +3/+3 and flying till end of turn, which honestly, to pause there, that's the reason I had it. It's like, well, it does make Eesha a 5, so that is nice, and she just gets bigger from a Planeswalker perspective. The -8's cute. I don't think I could ever pull it off in a Voltron deck. You get an emblem with artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and lands you control have indestructible.
Yeah, so it's just like, I get it, but I think the rest of your Planeswalker package that you have, like Nahiri the Lithomancer, is just a better version of this for 1 more mana for what this deck is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think the flying depends on everything. If you're running a Voltron commander that doesn't have flying, this card's probably pretty good. But the fact, I just hate the fact that it's like that redundant ability when you don't need it. So there's an enchantment that I'm a huge fan of. It's 2 colorless and a white. It's called Duelist Heritage. So this was the one that caught you by surprise when we did our Jumpstart spoils. So Duelist Heritage, 2 colors and white for an enchantment. Whenever 1 or more creatures attack, you may have target attacking creature gain double strike until end of turn. The best techniques outlive their creators. So not only does this give your boy double strike, which is good, right? It's repeatable. It can give anything in particular. You don't have to attach it. None of that. This is also an amazing politics card because you can say, okay, look, if you attack him, I'll give you double strike and he'll go down even faster, right? This is just another stax card style for this deck that just directly deals with your opponents doing their thing.
Okay, I like that because the one thing I was a little worried about is because it is target, and so if it has protection, if it has pro white or shroud, I wouldn't be able to target Eesha with it. But I actually think, Tuck, you're onto a bigger point where I think this is actually better politics staxy kind of card to where it's like, hey, if you swing at Tuck, I'll give your XYZ creature double strike instead, and it'll like defer them from attacking me.
Right.
So actually, I like it more for that because let's be honest, double strike with 2 power. Now, granted, she should.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
2 power to 4.
Yeah,
that's not a big deal. But I like the politics piece of this. That's a cool
it's a really fun card, and I've played it a fair amount, and it always brings something to the table.
For sure. All right, we're on to the no budget. I talked about I'm going to cut Elspeth. We don't need to go into it again. I'm going to cut it for a card. It's a little anti what I've been doing with a lot of my equipments. Tuck's been talking about this alternate build, higher CMC stuff.
I'm finally doing it.
And so I was like, so I thought, let me add in not a high CMC, but a high equip cost.
Oh, I know what this is.
Colossus.
The hammer. You're going to bring the hammer? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. 1 colorless artifact equipment for a couple bucks. Wow, it's up to $2 now.
It's played a lot. I need to get one of these.
Equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying. Could care less about flying. I got protection from creatures. And equip 8. And then there's only one way to be sure. It's really dead. Yeah. So I think we have enough things in here to where I can cheat the equip cost, like a Hammer of Azan if I add that. We have the Sigarda's Aid. But honestly, like, this would be a card to where it's like, well, I could cast Eesha for 8. Or I could equip the Colossus Hammer to this thing. They are open, and I'll just hit them for 13.
There you go, yeah.
It's still a great card, and it's a nice card where it's not a high CMC investment and equip. I don't have anything turn 1. Play this turn 1. And it'll be a thing that people are like, ooh, you got to watch that. But then everyone's going to forget because they're going to see Sword.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hammer is on. 6 swords in a row. Sword of the Animus. Yeah, I can't believe it's $2. It's just it's just a beater card. I think it's hysterical. I'm here for it. 100%. Great ad. And I'm going to get you a way to go get it. Ooh.
All right, Tuck. Well, what are you going to cut? What are you going to add for your no budget, make me spend all the money card?
So I also agree with you that I think you have over redundancy in certain effects, right? And I was trying to find the ones that I felt were the least efficient at doing so, right? So of the cards that I was looking through, the one that I didn't like, and I think there's a couple different options here. I would say it's a split between like Drannith Magistrate and Cursed Totem, but I'm gonna go with Drannith Magistrate because that's what I wrote down. So Drannith Magistrate.
What? It stops people playing.
It's one color. It's 1 colorless and a white for a creature, human, wizard, Harry.
Oh, I'll go to hell.
Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands, and it's like $5. Oh. I know. Listen, so that's why I'm telling you that you can go through and figure out what redundant effect that you want to cut, right? As you may mention, I think you're kind of overextended in some of them. This card for me, I don't know. I've never been excited by it. When it got spoiled, I know there's a big hoopla about it. It dies the lightning bolt. It doesn't have any evasion. It's a shitty commander in and of itself. Like, this is a bad target. And more importantly, Mr. Combo, it doesn't cost 3 colorless and a white and have 4 toughness. So
okay, that's fair. But I will say I have played this card a few times in this Eesha. It works because then they're not using the removal on Eesha. They got to use the removal on that because my mindset, and I know you and I are of the same thing. most people build an EDH deck around their commander. Right. If you don't have access to your commander, your deck probably doesn't function most of the time. Now, there are some outliers out there where they don't need their commander at all, like an Aloro, but 9 times out of 10, people need their commanders, and it being a 2-drop, man, I've played this turn 2, and I think like Sir Nathan was like, Mr. Combo, I like you, but fuck you.
He is known for saying that exact string of words. So maybe it's just my personal, again, like this is just my opinion on it. You can find a card to cut for this, but for me, out of all the ones you have, I think this one does the least. Right, so I'm gonna cut it for another draw spell. I want to bring this up for 2 reasons. One, because it's really good, and second off is because I traded it to Fat Ryan for like $5. Okay, we're talking about Steel Shaper's Gift. It's the most basic card on the planet, and it's very upsetting. 1 white, sorcery. Search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your library. $30! What? Some blades seek their own wielders. Ooh. And that is, I think, Umezawa's Jit on there. So that's the reason why I wanted to bring it up. A, it's a draw card for you, right? B, this can go get your Colossus Hammer and do whatever you want with it. So great. Just a great card for the deck. The problem is I bought this for $5, traded it to Fat Ryan for $10, and now it's $30. And as soon as I looked that up, I was very angry. I was trying to figure out how I could shoehorn this into this deck and bring up that very anecdote. So again,
I like it. 1 drop. It's cheap. Go get whatever equipment I need to the hand for the time.
Play turn 1. Go get Sword of the Animist, and then you got your ramp package going. Even if you have it on like your Draenith Magistrate, right? Like late game, go get your Colossus Hammer because you already have your Hammer and Nazan or whatever sort of rigmaroles that you're down and around.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I don't know if I'm spending $30 for it, but I like it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if I'm spending $30, I'm getting Demonic Tutor, not a Steel Shaper's Gift. All right. Well, guys, that's going to be the end of the episode. And as promised, here are those details about that giveaway. We're giving away a mystery bundle. We're working it out with Level 1 right now. Obviously, we wanted to do something with Time Spiral, but I don't think that's going to happen just because, like, the prices are just astronomical. And we're obviously not trying to put our sponsor in a bind. So I think one of the ideas we're toying with is doing a starter deck around one of the legends that came out in Time Spiral.
Yes.
So, give you the commander and then, maybe 10, 15 cards to kind of get you going. What that will be, you guys will have to find out next week on MTG Action 4 News when we announce the winner. To enter, it's super simple. Just promote all the content we produce, whether it's audio, video, Patreon, all of that stuff. You get an entry for every interaction you do with us on social media, liking the posts, retweeting them, quoting them. We will announce the winner on that MTG Action 4 News, like I talked about, next Tuesday. And yes, we'll post it on our Twitter account soon after, just in case you missed the episode. And yes, these giveaways happen every month. It just depends on what Level 1 can do. So please support them so they can support you. We would love a 5-star review. Hit that follow button, hit that like button on whatever consumption platform you're listening to us on, whether that be YouTube or a podcast. We do love that positive feedback. It helps us improve the content, whether it's the actual audio piece, whether it's the editing piece, or the video piece. If you would like to reach out to us and find more ways to enter into the contest, here's how you can do that. You can reach me at Mr. Commodore 5 on Twitter, all spelled out, except for the 5. Big Tuck. Where can they reach? Yeah.
So I think I'm going to take Twitter back to active status on my phone.
Whoa.
Yeah, I think things have calmed down suitably, and I'm on there at Big Tuck Tweety.
You can reach our main account at CMD Tower on Twitter as well. We will have the deck list posted and an article at cmdtower.com/BNBE83. Tuck, I can't believe we've done 83 episodes.
It's kind of wild.
That is just crazy. And also, I mean, you could essentially type in Champion's Helm, Marble Diamond, Dark Steel Plate, Tower.com. Sweet McGee, if people want to get a hold of yourself and your Manolith commentary, how would they do that? He can do everything you need from an audio perspective. He does have a full studio, so whenever you have the vaccine and he has the vaccine, you can definitely come into town and do a little what we call rigmarole.
Now, I will say...
and by the way, Go ahead. I was going to say, we went to your guys' concert where he did the audio 2 weekends ago, and
he is insanely talented. I will say this: we were just having some brews over at Rock Creek and talking about this very thing. Masks are required, and we're back on the banana hammock train. Got to have one of those if you're coming into the studio.
If you guys would like to support our sponsor with the orders you're already doing and let them know that these monthly giveaways are worth it, head over to level1gameshop.com. When you place an order in the order notes, just type in CMD Tower so they know that you came from the collective. They do sell singles, sealed product, board games, Warhammer, all that stuff. So they could definitely help you out with whatever you need. Another way you could actually support us financially is to head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/CMD Tower. We have the 4 different tiers, including Aaron getting that awesome shout out, which we'll do whenever you join, no matter what tier it is, to, even getting a playmat, sleeves, tokens, coin, the whole kit and caboodle. And I will tell you, our Discord is fire. Yeah, it's been super active. If you're looking for people to talk to, if you're looking for games to jam, redacted.
Wow, where did that come from?
I don't know. We're at the end of the episode, and I'm about to go make some chilaquiles, and I was feeling
nice.
Good. And once we get to 50 patrons, we will even start having our patron community on Brews and Builds every month as a guest spot. So get it out there, infect your friends to join the collective. And of course, Pink Royal, thanks for the music you guys provide. And T-Coats, our amazing video editor. Make sure you guys let him know the awesome job that he does. If you see things that you see in other content creators' videos that you'd like him to do in ours, please reach out to him at T-Coats on Twitter. So Tuck, Saturday morning, I've sobered up in the last hour 43.
I was like, I feel great.
And I've drank like 6 bottles of water. Bird of Prey, I should run solo. How do you feel about the deck? I know you've seen this deck often. Talking about it, do you get more of why the deck was built this way? And do you hate it a little bit less?
Let me go on record. I never said I hated this deck. I always like this deck, and I commend you on building it, because it's definitely, of the decks you own, this is one that's more on the me side of the spectrum, right? I think it works. Like, that's the thing. That's what I pulled away from this, right? Is like, the deck works in concept. I think it works well in execution. It's just like well designed from that standpoint. As we mentioned, I'm not a huge stax guy, but everything that's in here, like we've said over and over and over again, it's just countering another deck that it can't deal with. So I think in that regards, it's well built and well minded for a mono white deck, given the obvious limitations in that color.
Yeah, I'm glad we talked about it. This is a deck I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. Like Big Tuck mentioned, once I get my mindset on a deck, I won't shut up about it. Insert Xeris for 6 months. Oh my
God! Talk about a dark season.
I think there is some redundancy in here. I think the whole hexproof thing was a cool concept, just doesn't work in reality. And I think, you've recommended cards that I hadn't even heard of or hadn't seen in a while. I was able to find cards that, like Entangler, that, like, why the hell wouldn't you have this in here? Or Hammer of Nazan, like, Jesus, like, what am I doing with my life? I'm excited to maybe try to improve this deck, considering I typically don't alter my decks within the first year of building them. And I think this is one. I think these are all slam dunks. Like, gotta do it. And the cards that I'm cutting, like Elspeth and Leyline of Sanctity, I'll have other decks for it. So I won't feel bad like, oh, I invested this money into this card for this deck, and now I'm cutting it. Now it's just going to sit in a trade binder. No, I actually have decks that I could probably throw that stuff in. So I loved it. This was great. And long live Snyder Cut.
Yeah.